Josh Searson, a World Alternative Media here, and the plot is thickening regarding what a lot of people are concerned might be the beginning of an all-out war with Iran. As we reported live a couple days ago, as news broke of a plane crashing after going off the runway in Tehran, new revelations have come out that show that it looks as though the plane was actually shot down. Some say accidentally. Now, there's a lot to go into here, so make sure to press like and share this video, but we're going to go into this as deeply as we possibly can. As this Newsweek article says, Iranian missile system shot down, Ukraine flight probably by mistake, sources say. And there's a lot of speculation around this right now. One should always ask cui bono, but let's get into this article, and we'll go into it more significantly after we go through some of this here article. As it says, the Ukrainian flight that crashed just outside the Iranian capital of Tehran was struck by an anti-aircraft missile system. A Pentagon official, a senior U.S. intelligence official, and an Iraqi intelligence official told Newsweek. None of the officials was authorized to speak publicly on the matter. Ukraine International Airlines Flight 752, a Boeing 737-800 en route from Tehran, Iman Kamani International Airport to Kiev's Boryspil International Airport, stopped transmitting data Tuesday, just minutes after takeoff and not long after Iran launched missiles at military bases housing U.S. and allied forces in neighboring Iraq. The aircraft is believed to have been struck by a Russia-built Tor M1 surface-to-air missile system known to NATO as Gauntlet, the three officials told Newsweek. I'm going to go into this more extensively in a moment. I see people are tuning in. Make sure to press like if you haven't already. So one thing that I can't help but notice that it seems like this whole world's just a stage, a theater. That it just seems like this is a big game of theater at the end of the day. We will go into this more extensively, but first let's go back a bit. So obviously the U.S. has been aggressing against Iran since the 1950s, especially with the Iranian missile coup, installing leaders, etc., and arming and funding the Ba'athist Party against Iran, which actually led, and we're talking the Ba'athist Party in Iraq against Iran, which actually led to one of the deadliest, most bloodiest wars in history. Well, fast forward to June of 2019, and we heard about the Gulf of Oman attack, very similar to the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which led the United States into war with Vietnam. What happened was there was an attack on two ships in the Gulf of Oman, which was blamed on Iran, but the ship owners themselves said it wasn't Iran, so that story was thrown out the window. Now, fast forward to December of 2019, and a military contractor was accidentally killed, allegedly, by an Iranian-backed militia group. That militia group was fighting ISIS in the region. Well, what that led to was 25 of these Iranian militiamen being killed in an attack, which then protesters took the Baghdad embassy, the embassy in Baghdad, and then the U.S. took it back over, sent the protesters over the Tigris River out of the green zone, which led also to Qasim Soleimani, being assassinated by the U.S. government. So that was a huge escalation, though it was under the guise of de-escalating. I don't know what that means. And then, of course, Iran allegedly warned Iraq, and then Iraq allegedly warned the United States of an impending attack on their bases near Erbil. Erbil is in Iraqi Kurdistan. So these bases were hit, and there were no known casualties. But at the same time, as we reported live at the moment, a plane allegedly went off the runway. Now, there's a lot of questions that were being asked about that, but I mean, this is the thing. Now they're saying that Iran accidentally shot down this plane, the missile defense system. Now, if we are to believe that, then we have to believe that Iran's missile system is absolutely terrible, which should clear up any of the issues anyone had as far as a concern that Iran would attack the United States, because obviously they wouldn't have the ability to do so properly, or not well anyway, and would probably be intercepted nonetheless. But on top of that, cui bono, who benefits? Why would Iran shoot down a plane right after takeoff, even accidentally. If this plane is coming off the runway at the airport, at one of the busiest airports in the region, and then they accidentally shoot it down, how does that work? And on top of that, why would they do it on purpose, which a lot of people are asking about? Countless Canadians were on the plane. Why would Iran shoot down an airplane off of after takeoff? It would be like shooting themselves in the foot. Who benefits? The United States benefits because the U.S. Loves to be in that region. They've been trying to take over that region for a century now. General Wesley Clark, 5-star general, actually spoke of the 7-country plan long ago. But getting further into this article here, as it says, and I quote, "Well, I have my suspicions," President Donald Trump told reporters at the White House following Newsweek's report. It was flying in a pretty rough neighborhood, and someone could have made a mistake. A rough neighborhood? Tehran isn't a very rough neighborhood, actually. It's a rather peaceful area, not for protesters, not for activism, for sure. No one's going to claim that the Iranian government is innocent at all. But with that said, I wouldn't call it a rough neighborhood. Anyway, carrying on, it says, U.S. Central Command declined to comment on the matter when contacted by Newsweek. The National Security Council and the State Department have not yet responded. Of the 176 people on board, 82 were Iranian, 63 were Canadian, and 11 were Ukrainian, including 9 crew members, along with 10 Swedish, 7 Afghan, and 3 German nationals. None survived. And Trudeau has made an announcement today. Not that anyone cares what Trudeau says, but as this CTV News article says, intelligence indicates flight PS-752 was shot down by Iran, Trudeau, and he's basically said that it was most likely accidental. I want to do a big shout out to John Wagner, who sent $4.99 in the super chat. Really appreciate that, John. He says, thanks, bro. Thank you to you. Really appreciate the super chats. Make sure to press like if you haven't already. But anyway, getting into it, it says, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Canada has intelligence that indicates that the plane that crashed in Iran Wednesday morning, killing all 176 people aboard, was shot down by an Iranian missile, possibly by accident. For those asking in the chat, yes, we will be doing a question period shortly. We're just going through the breaking news now. And I quote, as it says here, "We have intelligence from multiple sources, including our allies and our own intelligence. The evidence indicates that the plane was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile. This may well have been unintentional," the Prime Minister said Thursday afternoon at a news conference. And of course, the Ukraine Airlines flight PS-752 crashed near Tehran shortly after taking off. 63 of its passengers had Canadian passports, and many others were living in Canada as permanent residents on visas. And it's interesting because a lot of Winnipeggers died, a lot of Edmontonians died. It just, once again, it wouldn't make sense for Iran to shoot down the airplane on purpose, because they wouldn't benefit from it. It would be like shooting themselves. And it doesn't make sense that they would accidentally shoot it down, because how bad is their missile system that it would accidentally shoot down a plane coming off the runway at one of the busiest airports? Like, it's just constantly happening all day. Those planes are coming off that runway, and they decide, like this machine decides, shoot down the plane. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, for those just tuning in, make sure to press like on this video if you haven't already. I appreciate everyone tuning in. We're going into the breaking news that allegedly Iran shot down accidentally an airplane in Tehran the other day. As we reported live on it, it was breaking, and it said most stories claim that it crashed on takeoff. There is video of what appears to be the plane getting shot down, and there's a bunch of bullet holes in the fuselage. Aviation experts have said it's very likely that this plane was shot down, and now the U.S. government and Canadian government are saying with their intelligence that it was shot down. Now, this follows a lot of instability between Iran and the U.S., and that instability has been going on for about 100 years, but most notably in the last 2 or 3 years. And obviously, as was reported recently, and I'll put it up on the screen here as well, Iranian MPs passed bill labeling all U.S. military personnel terrorist entities. Now, let's not forget that millions have died at the hands of the US government in the Middle East, in Iraq, in that region in the past 20 years. So I can't honestly, I mean, all governments are terrorists, but I can't honestly blame the Iranian government for saying that. And Iraq voted in parliament to kick the U.S. out of their country. What is interesting is the U.S. said no. It's funny because the U.S. says the whole thing is about spreading democracy in Iraq. And what happens, Iraq votes to kick the U.S. out. And the U.S. is like, oh, well, never mind, democracy. Yeah, we're just going to stay here anyway. It says a lot about the hypocrisy about it. And on top of that, it doesn't make sense to me why Iran would shoot down this airplane. And you know what's interesting is that they called for the black box. The black box allegedly was hidden from the U.S. government. But I mean, can you blame Iran for not giving the U.S. government, who's trying to wage a hot war with them, the black box so they could falsify information? We've seen that before. I mean, remember the Afghanistan war with the Afghanistan papers that came out recently that proved that the whole war was based on a lie and they had no real intelligence and they just wanted to go into the country and go to war with them. It was just declassified, or not declassified, it leaked. That came out. People are still calling for war with Iran after all that. How many times do they have to be lied to? How many thousands of troops have to die? How many trillions of dollars have to be spent? And most importantly, how many millions of innocent civilians, including tens of thousands of children, have to die before people go, oh, we keep getting lied to. Maybe we shouldn't repeat the same thing over and over again. History doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme, as Mark Twain once said. And obviously the Syrian dossier came out recently showing that the whole sexed up so-called dossier out of Syria was built up on lies in order to convince the public that Assad gassed his own people without evidence, so they would be willing to go to war. Luckily, independent media called that out enough and stopped it from happening. I do have to mention something that I found quite interesting. A story that came out yesterday was about Tucker Carlson and how Trump apparently watched Fox News, saw Tucker Carlson talking about how terrible the idea is of going to war with Iran is, and that it actually convinced Donald Trump to not go to war with Iran. Now, I don't believe this calming of the tensions. I mean, let's get real here. How many times have we heard that before? Obama said the same thing with Libya. In fact, the Obama administration worked with Libya as they did with Iran. They tried to go out against both of them and ended up bringing down Libya, causing vast terrorism, arming and funding ISIS in the region, and causing, the Islamic State in Libya, ISIL technically, Daesh, in that region, destabilizing it and having Gaddafi assassinated. So am I supposed to trust the military-industrial complex's big government, big globalist, big communist entity? Again, all it's done over the years is lie and waste millions of lives. For what? Oil? Poppies? Propping up the heroin trade in the U.S.? I mean, running guns, creating order out of chaos? How many times do we have to go through this before we learn that it's all based on lies? All of this. I am trying to keep up to date with the most recent information. Of course, we had the death of Soleimani, the assassination of Soleimani recently, and no, there's no evidence that Soleimani was a good person, and I certainly have not made that claim. But one thing I do know is they say he killed 300 American lives. First of all, that's based on intelligence out of the United States, which benefits from war, so I don't know if I believe that. Second, was he a good person? Probably not. He worked for the government. I don't believe anyone that works for the government at that level is a good person. But with that said, okay, so if he killed, say, 300 Americans, first, why were the Americans there? Second, what about the millions of innocent people who died in that region after the U.S. bombed them and destroyed them, drone bombed them, chemical bombed them, tortured them, or armed and funded ISIS and terrorist gangs in the region? I mean, honestly, that doesn't seem to qualify or quantify the U.S. going in there and assassinating him. Apparently, Trump should have listened to Tucker Carlson before he went and assassinated Soleimani, because obviously his generals are a whole bunch of war hawk neocons, and it's evident seeing people like Lindsey Graham praise Trump for this recent bombing. If you haven't already, make sure to press like on this video. I appreciate everyone tuning in and sending super chats if possible. Check those links below for ways to help support independent media as we report on these stories up to date, up to the moment. And the mainstream media is trying to propagate us into war right now, and we need to reject that at every single turn. We're going to get more into the most breaking news here, but first I want to note that the breaking news today is that Iran has allegedly shot down a Ukrainian airplane in Tehran carrying a bunch of Canadians. I need to say that there's very little evidence that it was shot down on purpose. Now, the original news that came out when we were reporting live a couple days ago was that the plane crashed off the runway, but then bullet holes were seen in it. It was seen in a video in the sky crashing and hitting the ground off of cell phone footage, and the story just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And what I can't help but notice is that they say that it was accidentally shot down. Why? Why would it be accidentally shot down? How terrible is this missile system? I thought Iran was a big boogeyman and the U.S. needed to take them out. If there's such a big boogeyman, why is their missile defense system so terrible that it would shoot down a plane accidentally off the runway in one of the busiest airports out there? The plane just lifted off the ground. The thought of it shooting down this plane instantaneous like that seems so absurdly unrealistic. I mean, come on, guys. On top of that, if they did accidentally shoot it down, where's that evidence coming from? Well, the U.S. government? Well, I'm sure they're very trustworthy. I'm sure they haven't done false flag attacks to excuse killing millions before. And on top of that, Iran doesn't want to release a black box, and the U.S. and Canadian government are saying that's evidence of guilt. Is it? Or do they just not want to give their black box to the United States for them to fudge things up so they can give more reason to go to war with Iran? Or is it all theater? Is it all a game? Is it all fake? Are both sides faking? I don't know at this point. It's so crazy. But one thing I do know is that the plane crashed. A lot of people died. Winnipeggers, people from Edmonton as well on the plane. A few Ukrainians, mostly Iranians and Canadians though. And a few Swedish people as well. It's tragic. It's horrible to see. I wanted to go to Iran recently, and this whole thing has stopped me from being able to travel there, but I plan on going anyway soon. But with that said, I was just in the region in the Middle East about 2 months ago. People are so inviting, so nice, and no one wants the U.S. there. And can you blame them? Millions of people have died. So this plane, after it crashed, they've been cleaning up the wreckage. They've been doing some forensics on it. And from what has been shown so far, this notion that Iran would shoot it down on purpose, which a lot of people are saying, is absurd. Why would they do that? Who benefits the most off of this crash? Who benefits the most off of this plane getting shot down? The United States government, the military-industrial complex. Who else? It doesn't benefit Iran. It certainly doesn't benefit Iran to get bombed to death by the United States and destabilized like every other country in the region has been by the U.S. Why would that happen? I mean, why would they do that? And how terrible is their missile system if they accidentally shoot down this plane? Y says in the comments here, I'm Canadian. We will never get the truth about the plane. Enough invading America. Nobody wants their troops in their countries. I agree as a Canadian as well. And I was just in the region, and they're just the most polite, decent people. Wahhabism is the extreme elements that have been created by the U.S. government causing problems in that region. Governments aren't good, but it's about the people at the end of the day that get caught in the crosshairs as pawns, and the troops in the U.S. too that are used as pawns to sacrifice for the king and the queen. Martin Tierney sent Australian $5 in super chats to me. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate the help, guys. Those super chats go a long way. It's the only way we're able to report this up-to-date news on a daily basis anymore, as YouTube shadow bans and demonetizes us. Heavy Metal Pedal says, same guy that lied about Assad gassing his own people in Syria. Yeah, well, I mean, it's crazy that there's so much propaganda that people keep eating up, despite the fact that new revelations have come out proving all this stuff to be nonsense. The Afghanistan papers that were recently leaked showed that the whole Afghanistan war is based on a lie for oil and poppies and all that kind of stuff. It's right there in fine print, and no one gets it. Like, they see that and they're like, oh, well, maybe that's just a one-off situation. What about Vietnam? Maybe it's a two-off situation. What about the Syrian dossier that just came out showing that Assad didn't gas his own people, and they're trying to get the public, propagandize the public into believing he did so they could go to war with him? Oh, maybe it's a three-off situation. What about the Iraq war, weapons of mass destruction, which they claimed Iraq's Ba'athist Party had, despite the U.S. arming and funding the Ba'athist Party years earlier against Iran? Oh, maybe it's a four-off situation. What about the Iranian missile coup? Maybe that's a five-off. Every single war is based on a lie, guys. Look at it this way. Going back to Hitler, they prop up the U.S. government and Britain helped prop up Hitler against the Communist Party in Germany. And then they helped prop up the USSR, which killed even more people than Hitler, against Hitler, forming an alliance with them. And then what happened next? Then they armed and funded the Mujahideen, later Al-Qaeda, against USSR. Does anyone see the pattern here? Arming and funding the Ba'athist Party, then going after Iraq, creating order out of chaos, guys. Chris Shapansky says, hit the like button. Thank you very much, Chris. Make sure to press the like button if you haven't already, guys. I appreciate it. It helps us with our algorithm as we are indeed being shadow banned. So let's get to the latest news here. RJN4444 says, calm down, mate. Take a breath. It's hard to calm down when millions could die. I feel like it's a job of independent media to call out this insanity because we've been right every single time. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I do want to note that there is a story coming out about a Florida security guard who tried to, was planning to assassinate Trump. As it says, Florida security guard charged with threatening to kill Trump in retaliation for Soleimani. This story has been making the rounds today. There he is. Because, of course, Iran put a bounty on Trump's head. Again, for those that are just tuning in, we'll get to the top of this article here, show you the headline. Iranian missile system shot down Ukraine flight, probably by mistake, sources say. And as the Canadian government went into, as it says, Trudeau said, and I quote, "We have intelligence from multiple sources, including our allies and our own intelligence. The evidence indicates that the plane was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile. This may well have been unintentional," the Prime Minister said Thursday afternoon at a news conference. I have a very hard time believing that this plane was shot down accidentally, and I have a very hard time believing Iran would shoot it down intentionally. It doesn't even make sense. James Wonkner says in the chat, look at the passenger list. I agree. We should be looking into that. JD 1989 sent $2 in the super chat, says no more wars for the military-industrial complex. I really appreciate the super chat, man. Always appreciate the help. It's the only thing that keeps us up and running on in independent media these days, as we are demonetized, censored, and shadow banned. Anyway, carrying on, again, what was interesting is that Iranian MPs passed a bill labeling all U.S. military personnel terrorist entities recently. I can't help but feel as though, in a way, this is all theater. It's all fake. It's all just, bread and circuses, as we've seen so much lately. For those that are just tuning in, the news has been coming out all day today that the Iran a missile system shot down Ukraine flight, probably by mistake. Many of the people on board were Canadian, Swedish, a few Ukrainian, and of course Iranian. It's crazy to think that they would do it on purpose. And it's also crazy to think that their missile system so bad that it accidentally did it, because it's an international airport. It's a huge, huge hub for flights going out throughout the region in Tehran. And the idea that this plane's just taking off and they have a missile system accidentally shoot down planes right off the runway makes no sense. It's absurd. I don't believe it. This idea that if let's put it this way, if that missile system is that bad, if it's that bad, then let's see, why would anyone be afraid of Iran attacking them? I mean, if this system just shoots down planes taking off the runway, it's obviously one of the worst surface-to-air missile systems in the world. So then, okay, fine. I guess we don't need war with Iran anymore. They can't attack the United States. If they accidentally shoot down planes off the runway in Tehran. We were live when this story first broke a couple days ago, when the news originally said that it wasn't related, that this plane crashed coming off the runway, but then video came out and then pictures showed bullet holes in the fuselage, and it became clearer and clearer that the plane was shot down. But for what reason? Accidentally, on purpose, false flag? What's going on here? We should be digging into who's on the passenger list, who was on that plane, as some people in the chat here have mentioned. If you're just tuning in, make sure to press a like on this video if you haven't already. It helps with the algorithm and all that. And send in super chats and check those links below to help support independent media, including getting a t-shirt that says "No War in Iran" in our Teespring store, also linked below the video. There's also Bitcoin and crypto tips that you can give. Kieran Franey says, does anyone still believe we live on a magic spinning a space ball? Let's get into the subject of the matter, though. Doug209 says, Boeing, send in your questions. I'll try to get to as many as possible, and super chats are always appreciated. All right. Catamos says, Blackout 2022. Anything relevant to the story, guys? Let's see. The comments are going up too fast. Demosthenes Wiggin says it wasn't accidental. They're just using that as an excuse, and they won't turn over the black box because they say that it's damage. Well, can you blame them for not handing over a black box to the U.S. government so that they could fake a story? Like, why? I don't understand why people think that this is evidence that Iran would shoot themselves in the foot for no reason and put themselves in such a terrible situation. I mean, why would they do that? It makes no sense. It isn't logical to believe. But people keep saying that the black box, they won't hand it over. Why would they? I mean, would you hand over the black box to the U.S. military-industrial complex to decide or come to the bottom of the situation? I mean, it's absurd. The flight got shot down. There's no doubt about that. But for what reason? For what reason? I mean, they say it was accidental. That would mean that the missile system is one of the worst in the world, shooting down planes accidentally off the runway. It's absurd. Y says, thanks to Florida Maquis for mentioning this channel. Absolutely. I appreciate anyone that talks about this channel. We're just trying to stop mass murder here. Government is organized crime, taxation is theft, and war is murder. And it doesn't change from president to president. It's war is murder, regardless of who you support or who your allegiance is to. And we need to call that out because millions of people have died in Iraq. Millions of people have died in Iraq in the past 20 years. And we're supposed to believe that Iran would purposely shoot down an airplane and shoot themselves in the foot. Who benefits the most? Who benefits the most from that plane going down? The United States government benefits the most because they've been trying to go to war with Iran for almost 100 years now, arming and funding the Iraqi Ba'athist Party against Iran, one of the most bloodiest battles in history, later utilized so that they could say Iraq had weapons of mass destruction that they gave them so they could go to war with them. Which led, again, to millions dead. Millions. And what's crazy is, and then there's thousands of soldiers and trillions of dollars. And soldiers are right now in the Middle East praying, doing mass prayers, praying to not be sent to war. Enough of this. I thought Trump was pulling all the troops out of the region, out of Iraq, out of Syria, out of Afghanistan. Then the Afghanistan papers come out, show that the whole Afghanistan war was based on a lie. There's still people there. Why was this contractor, American contractor, in the region in the first place when the Iranian-backed militia, which was going after ISIS in the region, ended up killing this contractor? Then later on, leading to 25 of these militiamen, Iranian-backed militiamen, being killed by the U.S., which led to the embassy being taken over, which led to protesters being sent by the U.S. government over the Tigris out of the Green Zone in Baghdad, and led to the killing of Soleimani at the Baghdad airport, the top commander in the Iranian military. Fast forward from there, Iran allegedly gave heads up to Iraq and the U.S. government even that they were going to hit a base or a couple bases near Erbil, Iraq, in Iraqi Kurdistan, a very peaceful region, I might add. Big tourism there from Americans and Canadians alike as well. And then this plane went down. Now, also, what's interesting is I can't help but notice that they say this missile, it was shot down accidentally by a missile. It looks like a bunch of like small bullets. It doesn't look like missiles at all. If you look at the fuselage, it's a bunch of sprayed bullets and fragments. It doesn't look at all like a missile hit that plane. So I don't get that at all. Bill says, give him a thumbs up, guys. I appreciate that, Bill. Make sure to press like on this video if you haven't already. I appreciate it. Diabolical One says Trudeau is lying now, though. Very possibly. I don't know where these guys get their intelligence. Trudeau doesn't have any intelligence in his head, so I have a hard time believing that he's getting intelligence from the military-industrial complex that is worthy of being listened to. But let's see. Hadi Nuff says a Russian Tor M1 was found at the scene. Yeah, I'm sure. Just like all these passports from the 9/11 hijackers was found undamaged at the bottom of the towers for police to find with the pictures open and everything. I'm sure that happened. This is the thing. I'm very skeptical because I've been talking about war and this geopolitical issue since I was about 10 years old, guys. And I feel like I'm a veteran at this already because we've seen these lies be played out over and over again. And every single time I said that they were lies, they ended up being lies. Every single time. I mean, I can't help but think at this point, like, it's just all a stage. It's just all theater. It's all media, bread and circuses for the masses to eat up and be scared and subservient due to. I can't help but notice that when, the Afghanistan papers come out, the Syrian dossier comes out, we know what we know about Iraq now, we know what we know about Vietnam now, even the Korean War. The U.S. Propped up Hitler against the Communist Party, propped up the USSR against Hitler, propped up the Mujahideen, later Al-Qaeda, against the USSR. It's order out of chaos, Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution, repeat for eternity. Woke Voke says fear-based mind control. Absolutely, that's what I believe at this point. It's becoming more and more clear. If you haven't pressed like on this video already, make sure to give it a like. I appreciate it, guys. If you're just tuning in, breaking news. It's been all over the television today. I try not to watch television, but allegedly Iran's missile system has shot down a Ukraine flight, probably by mistake. But why would that happen? Is it the worst missile system in the entire world? It would have to be. I mean, it's shooting down planes off of the runway at one of the busiest airports accidentally. It makes no sense. It's absurd. I don't believe it. And if they did it on purpose, why? Cui bono? Who benefits? They certainly don't. But who does benefit? The military-industrial complex, the U.S. government. Diabolical One mentions USS Liberty, absolutely, and the Gulf of Tonkin incident, Rolf Steiner mentioned, absolutely. FU NATO, North Atlantic Terrorist Organization says, lol, you are a veteran? No, I'm not. I said I'm a veteran of speaking about this kind of bogus nonsense. Anyway, so for those just tuning in, make sure to press like on this video if you haven't already. Look, I'm not trusting Newsweek. I'm just spreading news about what has been claimed by basically every publishing, media. And it's very, very speculative, and people are just buying it at face value, and I don't buy it. As Trudeau said here, and not that I care about what Trudeau says, but as Trudeau says here, and I quote, "We have intelligence from multiple sources, including our allies and our own intelligence. The evidence indicates that the plane was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile. This may well have been unintentional," the Prime Minister said Thursday afternoon at a news conference. Of course, 176 people were aboard the flight, and a lot of them Canadian. As the article continues here, Ukrainian Airlines flight PS 752 crashed near Tehran shortly after taking off. 63 of its passengers had Canadian passports and many others were living in Canada as permanent residents on visas. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada said in a statement on Thursday that the agency has been invited by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau of the Islamic Republic of Iran to visit the crash site. And it says, and I quote, "We have accepted this invitation and we are making arrangements to travel to the site," the agency wrote in the statement. The TSB will be working with other groups and organizations already on the site. Trudeau described the missile as the probable cause of the crash, but declined to elaborate on what evidence Canadian officials possessed that led them to believe a surface-to-air missile was to blame. U.S. President Donald Trump has suggested that he also believes Iran was responsible for the plane going down. Flanked by several senior government and defense officials, the Prime Minister said he had called for Iran to allow a full investigation into the crash. And I quote, "The families of the victims and all Canadians want Answers. I want answers. That means closure, transparency, accountability, and justice, he said. This government will not rest until we get that. A lot of people are commenting, was there someone important on board? I believe that there could have been. I mean, who knows? Danabolical one says Epstein is hanging out there. Yeah. But anyway, so recently, Iranian MPs did pass a bill labeling all U.S. military personnel as terrorist entities. One thing I want to note here is that cryptos have surged since Soleimani death. Bitcoin tops $8,000. There seems to be a lot of evidence that the fear regarding potential World War III, though I think it's just a continuation of World War III, if anything, not World War IV, is causing people to try to invest and try to ensure their wealth. It shows the grounds that crypto and gold and silver sit on when it comes to these kinds of concerns. Anyway, Rolf Steiner says, just blame Russia and get Rachel Madcow to rave on it for about 3 hours. Yeah, and again, this goes back to the absurdity of the media, which has incited war all this time, though YouTube says that we incite violence by talking about these subjects, even though we're not. Anyway, it's interesting because the media has been harping on about Iran for years and trying to create a war with Iran under Obama, under Trump, it doesn't matter. They've been doing it for a long time. The Iranian missile crisis, arming and funding the Iraqi Ba'athist Party against Iran to now. And what we're seeing is a continuation of that. And, it's interesting with the same media that's been going after Russia for all this time, which is allied with Iran as well as China. And then on top of that, it's interesting because, they were going after Russian collusion. This doesn't sound like Russian collusion to me. Well, that isn't believable anymore, which is why they're saying Ukrainian collusion. It's just so absurd. It's all distraction. It's all theater. It's all just a big game of mind control at this point. And we'd all do good by rejecting this, absolute nonsense for once. Make sure to press like on this video if you haven't already. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure to send a super chat if you want your question answered. It helps a lot. It keeps us alive and makes it possible to be able to survive as a media and call out this garbage that we're facing on a regular basis. So I really appreciate everyone tuning in. We will get back into it right away. But for those that haven't already, make sure to press like. And on top of that, I appreciate everyone that has given super chats so far. That means a lot to us. So the story is, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I have on my set here a book by Joshua Key, The Deserter's Tale. If you haven't read it, you should check into it, by Joshua Key. He signed it to me years ago. And Fool's Errand by Scott Horton, sorry, I can't talk right now, who also signed this book over to me. Big fan of all their work and great stuff. I was, of course, in the Middle East recently on the Syria and close to Iraq border. Just genuinely amazing people live out there. The government isn't good, but no governments are. We can't forget that. And it just saddens me so much to think about these people possibly getting killed in another war. I mean, millions have died. The whole region was destabilized. So many people lost their lives. Tens of thousands of children died. And the notion that we have so many people that are so bloody inconsistent supporting further warmongering is just so sad. It's disgusting. It hurts me to my core to think about all the people. And not just that, the U.S. soldiers that are going to be misled and sent out there and then killed, come back with PTSD and kill themselves, end up alcoholics, drunks on the street. Veteran homelessness is a huge thing. And then on top of that, trillions of dollars of taxpayer money spent. It's a great way to prop up the monetary system, isn't it? Another war. Gotta love propping up the monetary system with war. It's been going on for hundreds of years, thousands. It's been going on since ancient Rome. I did a video not that long ago while I was in Rome called The Fall of Empires, which goes into that quite extensively. JD 1989 says, make AIPAC and the arms lobby illegal. Alukia says, so you're not in Morocco yet? No. For those that I guess I haven't made the announcement on YouTube yet, but National Geographic got a hold of me and they want to do a Netflix, Disney Plus type show where they're sending me out to Morocco in the beginning of February to do some interviews. They're flying me out and putting me in a hotel, and they're interviewing me on my trip to the reshot structure in Mauritania and the Sahara Desert last year. So I'll be doing a National Geographic special right away. Figure I'll throw that out there and let everyone know. M. Rajan says, awesome news about the show. I appreciate it. Thank you. Kate Catanellis is good for you. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's another thing. And I'll be speaking at Anarchapulco right after that. Use promo code WHAM to get your tickets there. Ron Paul, a whole bunch of incredible speakers are going to be speaking there. Buy your tickets, get your chance to meet people like this. And anyway, National Geographic is owned by Disney, not Fox News, and that's another story. We'll talk about it later. But anyway, I appreciate everyone tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure to press like on the video. It means a lot to me because it helps with the algorithm and allows us to be seen a little bit more. Anyway, let's see. Rolf Steiner says, why are you surprised, Josh? General Wesley Clark told you about the Greater Israel Plan straight after Iran brought down the Twin Towers, according to Mike Pence. It's all crazy. All these people are insane. But yeah, I mean, if Mike Pence recently claimed that Iran was responsible for for 9/11, it's so absurd. Heavy Metal Pedal says Iran has not invaded or started any war conflicts in over 200 years. Yeah, they've hurt their own people. I'll 100% note that. But with that said, that's their business over there. And as I recently reported, a bunch of Iranian protesters recently burned down one of Iran's central banks. Captain Kickass says, me love you long time, Joe. Yikes. That's a concerning comment. SKIZ416 says, wow, awesome, good for you. I appreciate it. If you're just tuning in, make sure to press like on this video if you haven't already. The breaking news is that plane that we were talking about a few days ago when we were live, as news broke of a plane crashing off the runway, turns out that allegedly Iran accidentally shot it down. And if that's the case, then they must have the worst missile system ever, which means that there's no reason to go to war with them because they would never be able to hit the U.S. But of course, people won't put those two or those points together. Obviously, they're going to try to continue to push towards all-out warfare. A lot of Canadians were affected in this. As it says, intelligence indicates that flight PS752 was shot down by Iran, says Trudeau. It's just getting to a point where it's so absurd. The notion of Trudeau, or Trudeau, the notion of Trudeau having any intelligence to begin with, but no, the notion of Iran shooting down this airplane on purpose is absurd because it'd be like shooting themselves in the foot, and it's like Assad gassing his own people for no reason. It's so stupid. It obviously didn't happen. False flag if that's the case. And then it's the notion of them accidentally shooting it down off the runway in one of the busiest airports in the region, just right off the runway, shooting it down accidentally is absurd as well. And then they're like, well, why doesn't Iran give the black box to the United States? Would you? It's the U.S. Why would you give the black box to them? The people that murdered millions of people in that region and wage war as a part of their religion of government, statism, collectivism? Of course, it's absurd. JD 1989 says the Wahhabis did 9/11. The Persians are not our enemies. I would disagree and say the U.S. did 9/11 with help from other evil people. There's good, there's evil, and yeah, there's no in the middle. But anyway, so this notion that Iran would hand over the black box to the U.S. benefits from it. Iran doesn't benefit from this at all. Of course they didn't. They're not going to hand over the black box, though they have invited Canada and the U.S. to go and investigate the issue on the ground at the site. Iran doesn't want war. Why would they? That would be the end of their empire. I mean, yeah, they're a tyrannical government, but so is the U.S. And to note that, I mean, the U.S. has killed millions of people in the region, tens of thousands of children. Anyone supporting this is a terrible person. I'm sorry. If you support bombing countries on the other side of the world for America, you haven't learned from the literally hundreds of conflicts in the last century alone that have been proven to be lies. The Afghanistan papers, the leaked documents showing that the Afghanistan war was based on a lie for oil and drugs, poppies, etc. The Syria dossier, which just came out, that showed that the whole thing about Assad gassing his own people was BS, sexed up as they called it, in order to get people on the side of bombing Syria. And the Iraq war, we already know, was a complete lie after they went after Iraq for weapons that they had given them in the first place and armed and funded the Ba'athist Party against Iran decades earlier, causing one of the bloodiest wars in history. I mean, it's all nonsense. The Vietnam War, the Gulf of Tonkin incident, we know this stuff now, and it's all based on lies. So why would this be any different? Trust the plan, 4D chess. I've lost so many subscribers lately because I'm consistent. And I really don't care. I couldn't care less that people would unsubscribe because I don't support mass murder. If you support mass murder, you need to get your head examined. I mean, really, at this point in time, after all the lies, you're going to still support mass murder and psychopathic bombs dropping on children because apparently some country on the other side of the world that you've never been to and is way outside of your bubble would for no reason attack the US. It won't happen. It's absurd. It's stupid. It's all theater at this point. I'm also starting to wonder if Iran, the government itself, is in on this whole trick in order to destabilize the region. But anyway, JD 1989 says Gulf of Tonkin, USS Liberty, weapons of mass destruction, all lies. Absolutely, every single time. How many times do you have to be lied to? So many people want to be comfortable in their servitude to their leader and benefit their viewpoint that this guy has come to change everything. You as an individual are a free human being that defends your own individual liberties and rights. If you're willing, as Ben Franklin said, as a founding father said, if you're willing to give up a little bit of liberty for a little bit of temporary security, you will get and deserve neither. When did that stop being held to be true by both the left and the right? It's just a car wreck in the making. It's really sad. If you haven't already, make sure to press like on this video. I appreciate it, guys. Pressing like helps get us with the algorithm. Jose Arturo Rodriguez Lopez says, you are the best. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. John Wagner says, the economic hitman. Read it. I have. Captain Kickass says, knock, knock. Do I even want to know? But anyway, yeah, make sure to press like if you haven't already on this video. I haven't seen the likes go up yet, so go and press that like button. It's easy. Helps us with our algorithm. Super chats make a huge difference because we are 100% demonetized at this point at WHAM, and we're not allowed to speak out against this stuff because it's hate speech according to YouTube, and they auto-demonetize every video we post, but then still put ads on it and take all the money for themselves. We are heavily censored here. Make sure to find us on float.app, flote.app. I'll link below. You can get a shirt that says no war in Iran at our Teespring store below, linked below as well. Donate in crypto. We have a bunch of crypto addresses in the description as well that you can help us out with. Wrecking Dream says, check out The Last American Vagabond. I have definitely heard about that. We're losing viewers now. It is what it is. It's consistency and principle, and obviously we've been a little bit repetitive today. Hello, Tiffany. Good to see you. But nonetheless, I'm going to stay principled. I don't negotiate with terrorism. I don't negotiate with states. That's all synonymous anyway. And I am never going to give up my principles so that we can bow down to the state because it makes us feel more comfortable. Heavy Metal Pedal says it is in the region of ignorance that tyranny begins. Absolutely. That's a quote by Ben Franklin. So here's the thing. Principles are important. I want to be able to sleep at night. I've been offered huge money by state-run media, CBC in Canada, etc., to talk off a teleprompter. I refuse to do it. I'm literally going homeless right now because I refuse to sell out my principles. I wish to stay true to my belief in freedom, individual freedom, and not blowing up millions of people, tens of thousands of children in the Middle East. It seems not that controversial to me, but we live in a crazy world, guys. So I'm actually selling everything I own and moving to the other side of the world with just my clothes, cameras, and laptop in order to survive so I can keep bringing you guys videos on a regular basis. It's the only way we can survive as YouTube has demonetized us and shadow banned us, cut down our viewership dramatically under the guise of stopping controversial content. That's what this YouTube CEO, Susan Wojcicki, said anyway. And fine, so be it. I'm never going to give up. No one will ever stop me unless they kill me. So that's what I say to that. And I reject this notion of negotiating with these animals that wish to censor free speech online and promote pro-war sentiment that has gotten us into countless wars, thousands of troop dies, trillions of dollars spent, and most importantly, not only have they destabilized the region and armed and funded terrorists, but they killed millions of innocent people as so-called collateral damage. Is that collateral at that point, or is that just mass murder? And what did you get out of it? A more destabilized region? Tourism was just starting to pick up again in the region, and now this happens because they want order out of chaos, and they don't like the idea of it actually getting better over there. Very sad. Anyway, if you just tuned in, make sure to press like on this video if you haven't already. Daniel M614DM says, I hope you have a good trip. I appreciate it. It's more of a live homeless as a nomad through Airbnb for $150 to $350 a month in like Greece. It's actually not the worst thing ever, but I have to give up everything I own, sell everything I own, get off every bill in order to do it so I can bring you guys content on a regular basis. It's a sacrifice I'm willing to make for you guys because it's not about money to me. It's about the truth. It has always been about the truth. I went years without making money. I will continue doing that in order to be able to tell the truth without having to worry about the censorship because, you know, they can demonetize me all they want. I'm never giving up. I'll do this living out of a sleeping bag on the street if I have to. It's what I was born to do. So Elias Adamski says, a few more wars and everyone in the U.S. will be homeless, friend. Absolutely. Though it seems like they're utilizing this in order to you know, prop up the monetary system in a time when we're looking at negative interest rates around the world and a massive, well, we've already been in a recession since 2008, papered over with debt, but nonetheless, we're entering into something much larger right now, and they are doing whatever they can to prop up that monetary system. Truth, Money, and Freedom says, hi there, Wham crew. Hi there, Josh. Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Always appreciate it. 1 minute says, how do I join your army? Well, you can pledge in Patreon, Subscribestar, join us on Float and pledge there. Bitcoin, GoFundMe, Super Chats here, anything you can do to help us out. Buy a t-shirt, buy merchandise. That's how you join our army. It's how you keep this message alive, and I really appreciate it, guys. JD1989 says, just bought a No War in Iran t-shirt. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Thank you for supporting independent media. It means a great deal to us. And 1 minute says, I'll get a shirt. Awesome. We have a huge store, a lot of stuff to pick from on our you know, t-shirt store, Teespring store, linked below the video. Also, join us on float.app. That's flote.app, the future of social media. I'm at Josh Sigurdsson as well as at Wham, W-A-M, there. And Anubis the Red, that's a cool name. And on top of that, on Float, the idea is that we're replacing Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one with encrypted messaging for your privacy. On top of that, we also have, you know, monetization on videos, super chats and crypto in the live streams, and you can pledge with crypto as well. There's no algorithm telling you what you can and cannot see. If you follow someone, you can see their stuff. It won't hide anything. Nothing will be hidden. So that's very important. We need to move over to these other social media networks now. If not now, basically never, because eventually all the independent medias are just going to disappear from here. All you'll see is mainstream media, and you'll never know where we went. Let's see. Gazanfar #1 says, respect for you. Thank you very much. Respect to you as well. Peter Dempster says, dang, gutsy move, Josh. Greece isn't hard to take either. Yeah, I know, and it's a language I don't know, but I got to do what I got to do. Though it's going to be beautiful. That I'm looking forward to. I really appreciate people getting shirts and stuff from our Teespring store. Lots of merchandise, even phone cases, socks, leggings. There's even onesies for babies on there. If you have a child and you want them to wear taxation is theft or something like that on their, or end the Fed on their jumper. So yeah, anyway. Tucker says the American population better wake up soon. I 100% agree. Gio Benzo says, chatted with you at Anarchapulco last year at the bar. Keep pushing, brother. I'll support any way I can. I truly appreciate that. If you're going again, I'll see you soon. Brucolini Q says, you think just like me. I love this channel. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Rolf Steiner says, oh, Israel controls the USA. Now I get it. Oh, really? Greater Israel Project is a real thing that people ignore far too often for the stupidest of reasons. I want to note that I saw someone named Tucker there. I can't help but think this. Did Fox News' Tucker Carlson play a role in calming Iran pressure? Apparently, Trump saw the story that Tucker did calling out warmongering and being against warmongering. Good for Tucker, as always. He's shared our videos before. I appreciate it. Even Trump has shared Wham's videos before. Doesn't stop me from calling him out when I believe it needs to be done. Nonetheless, so Tucker did an anti-war monologue. Trump heard it, apparently causing him to want to calm the pressure on Iran. because of course CIA, Mike Pompeo, and Bolton previously were really pushing for war with Iran. They've been doing it forever. The U.S. has been doing it forever. Trump is just getting bad advice and getting pulled in as a puppet into this major situation. This isn't, 4D chess. This is just basically deception and puppetry, as always. It has been like that for a long time with the U.S. government. But with that said, Tucker did this monologue against war with Iran, and Trump saw it and allegedly wanted to calm the pressure on Iran. Now, will there be peace? He says he's calling for calm and peace. So is Iran. It's all theater, though. I mean, Obama did the same thing. Oh, let's hope for the best, but Obama did the same thing with Libya, with Iran, with Iraq, with all of these. And what happened? Insane amounts of people died. Obama dropped more bombs than any president in history. Let's stop falling for it and reject it at all costs all the time. Even when they say it's calming down, we need to keep calling it out. My dad says Josh is much smarter than his dad. All right. So yeah, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure to press like if you haven't already. We're doing what we can here to overthrow the military-industrial complex. We're only one person, but it's all of you guys that will make the major difference here. Sharing this video, pressing like on this video, helping us out with the algorithm, and calling out war at all costs. Buy one of our No War in Iran shorts, as a few of our viewers have today here at OAM. In our Teespring store, linked below. Just spread awareness. Show that people don't support mass murder, millions of casualties, tens of thousands of children dead. I don't understand how a lot of people in the Republican Party could be against abortion, but then suddenly be a pro-killing babies with bombs. I mean, like, it's just the mental gymnastics and the hypocrisy is just so insane. It makes me disgusted. I just don't know what to say about it anymore. Shinobi1 says, yo, what's up, Master Josh? How goes the broke #1 newsman? Not so bad. I mean, still broke, but, I feel like I'm sticking to my principles, and it makes me happy, regardless of how broke I am. I can sleep well at night, and that's really the most important thing to me, is that I can respect myself. A lot of people hate me, and that's fine. I don't really care. It's about what I think about myself. We've lost a ridiculous amount of subscribers lately due to being against war in Iran. It's crazy that people have been following us that support war in the Middle East. What about consistency? What about principles? What happened? What about freedom? Well, we've been here before. We've done that before. It seems to repeat. History doesn't as much repeat as it rhymes, as Mark Twain once said. And we're definitely in the butt of this situation where we see these cycles happening over and over again. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the U.S. propped up Hitler against the Communist Party, then then propped up the USSR, which killed tens of millions of people against Hitler, and then propped up the Mujahideen, later Al-Qaeda, against the USSR, and armed and funded the Ba'athist Party, Iraqi Ba'athist Party, against Iran years ago, causing one of the deadliest wars in history. They armed and funded the Taliban. They armed and funded ISIS. I mean, it never ends. The U.S. even armed and funded Vietnam and Ho Chi Minh. FDR gave weapons to Ho Chi Minh during the French colonization, when the French were getting slaughtered in the region as well. And that led to the Vietnam War. I mean, it just goes in circles, guys. This never ends. Anyway, make sure to press like on this video if you haven't already. I appreciate everyone tuning in. It's always good to see so many awesome people that are consistent, though unfortunately it's a dying cause. A lot less people than ever before are consistent on the issue of not killing and murdering babies and children and innocent people, and then arming and funding the people that they create extremists out of, and then utilizing that as a reason to go to war more. It's just ridiculous. My dad says he'll always do well. I have no doubt. Thanks for your support. Rolf Steiner says the USA needs this economic collapse as a societal reset to regain some sanity. Well, we definitely see a certain level of that with just how cryptos have been performing lately. Cryptos have surged since Soleimani death. Bitcoin tops $8,000. We have seen that with gold and silver as well. Clearly, people are concerned about this, and they're taking certain precautions. If only they took more precautions and it didn't take stuff like this to do it. But the reset is definitely coming. Fundamentally, all fiat currencies revert to zero eventually, and we cannot say when, but we know that it will happen eventually. So with that said, everyone should be more over-prepared than under-prepared at the end of the day. And it's never been more important than now, and it'll never be more important than tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after. The sooner people prepare, the better. There's an everything bubble. The jobs numbers are bogus, hidden in the labor force participation rate. We need to stop falling for the tricks of the establishment. and the puppets at the top of the establishment. And instead of replacing the puppet at the top, replace the system that the puppet is running. Isn't that the better route to go? I mean, what's more of an example of globalism and big government and even communism than the military-industrial complex? Taking people's properties, seizing properties, killing millions of people, creating a global government system worldwide, threatening anyone that doesn't support it, putting bases around Iran, pointing guns at them. Iran doesn't have a good government. No government is good. But with that said, can you blame them after getting poked all these years for wanting to hit back a bit? For those who's tuning in, I don't believe that Iran purposely shot down this plane. I don't even believe that they accidentally shot down the plane. I don't believe any of this. It just doesn't, none of it makes sense. Why would Iran shoot down a plane? It would be like shooting themselves in the foot. How would they accidentally shoot down a plane off the runway in one of the busiest airports in the region right as it takes off? How does that accidentally happen? How does that not happen to every plane ever that goes out there? And on that day, at that same time as what we saw by the Erbil Iraqi Kurdistan bases, it's absurd. And then on top of that, the notion of them accidentally doing it also doesn't make sense as far as the missile control system goes, because that would assume that they have the worst missile control system in the world, which would mean that, well, they aren't capable of going to war with the U.S., are they? I mean, they'd be destroyed. And we know that anyway. But, I mean, Iran, we should be leaving them alone. We shouldn't be pushing for war. The lack of consistency today regarding war with Iran is really concerning, and we need to stop falling for the same old tricks over and over again. Rolf Steiner says, this repo is going parabolic and not in a good way. I agree. Truth, Money, and Freedom says, oh, the governments will do that. No need for an asteroid. About asteroids. Oh, yeah, Smart CryptoBot says, we need an asteroid to wipe out 99% of people. Well, governments have already wiped out enough people, and they've basically infringed on our ability to live a free, peaceful life. There's no utopia, but we can get a lot closer than this. We need to realize our own freedom, our own power, our own individualism, and start working hard towards, benefiting that, being able to show that, live by example as much as we can. Anyway, if you haven't already, make sure to press like on this video. Let's try to get it above 170 likes. And I really appreciate the super chats today. I really appreciate everyone that's supporting us today. It means a lot. Make sure to check those links below. Float.app, flote.app, the future of social media. We got Bitcoin or crypto addresses that you can help tip us with. Lots below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar. We do subscriber-only content at the $5 a month tier and up. And we also do exclusive content on float.app, flote.app. We are on BitChute as well. Go subscribe there. Help us out in any way you can. Check out our t-shirt store, our merchandise store. We have lots of merchandise there that you can purchase and help support independent media as we're being shadow banned. And as Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, recently said, she's cutting down controversial content by 70% in views, and she's proud of it. Well, she's done a really good job of making sure no one sees our videos anymore. Anyway, demonetization, shadow banning, we will never give up. We will never let down our principles, and we will never submit to popularity contests because some people support war. We don't, and we never will. And you can bet on that. I really appreciate all the people watching today. East Coast King says, watch the video. Where do you see a missile strike on the plane? I don't, and it looks like a bunch of small bullets in the fuselage in the pictures. So, yeah, it's not a very likely scenario. I am more and more thinking it's a false flag. But anyway, I appreciate everyone joining. Press like on this video if you haven't already, and we will be back with you guys with much more. A lot of big shout out to everyone that sent super chats today. We raised about $16. It makes a difference, and it keeps us up and running as an independent media network. We will be reporting on this up to the moment as much as humanly possible. I am just one person after all, and we have more videos on many subjects going up in the near future. Hollander Christoph says, important people on the plane, possibly. I'm waiting on the flight list and who was on the plane. That certainly will be important. It's like the Titanic with all the people that were rushing over to the U.S. to debate the Federal Reserve. Right in time for JD 1989 to say, and the Fed. I agree. They're some of the biggest causes of war in the world, believe it or not. What's Your Prob says, I know, I was watching when they deleted it. It was a drone plane. Watch. Yeah, there's lots of video out there. But I think they're still up on a few sites, and they're backed up on IPFS, I believe. Can't really truly erase videos from the internet anymore, though they can certainly try. That's why it's important for people to back up other people's videos as well and hope that you can keep those videos alive. Truth, Money, and Freedom says, enjoying these live streams, Josh. I hope we see more. Absolutely. There'll probably be one tomorrow, thinking about it. I got videos on other subjects as well going up right away. And for those that I haven't heard yet, by the way, press like on this video if you haven't already. I keep saying that. But for those that aren't aware yet, National Geographic is sending me out to Morocco to do one of their documentaries for Netflix and Disney Plus, talking about the reshot structure in Mauritania. I don't know why they're not sending me to Mauritania, but nonetheless, I'm going to be doing that right away. So stay tuned for that. It's about 2 weeks away. They're flying me out to Morocco to do this show and meet with their host and be interviewed on this show and everything. So I hope I could still get something done out there too. Nonetheless, I've been posting videos all day, every day. We got tons more coming up right away. So I appreciate everyone joining us. Make sure to press like if you haven't already. I appreciate all the support. It means a lot to me. And anyway, Tim Monet says, hi, Truth. What's up? All right, we still got lots of people commenting anyway. I don't want to get too caught up in all that. Ken the Eagle put thumbs up. I agree. Thank you very much, Ken. By the way, press like on this video if you haven't already. Check those links below. And until next time, wait for it. Wait for it. This is Josh Sigurdsson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.